Okay, so it's been a while, and that's how I can describe this here, right? Like just. Hey, so I forgot to mention, I have a podcast. I'm going to be having two podcasts, because why not? The first one that I have already launched is called Dungeons and Degens. There's going to be a little card up there, as well as in the end card of the video. Dungeons and Degens is a podcast where me and a bunch of my personal friends get together and we play Dungeons and Dragons and live stream the audio, and I made all the visuals. I'm also in it. It's really fun. I really like it. It's super nerdy, and I know it's not for everybody because we do voices, we roleplay. It's a whole kind of vulnerable and really fucking stupidly like nerdy thing, but it brings me a lot of joy. So if you guys want to check it out, or if you think you might be interested in it, definitely go check it out. If you're just like for sure not about it, don't worry about it. But it makes me really happy. So if you guys are interested, go check it out. I have the first couple episodes out now by this point. So yeah. Anyway, so today we're making a starter pack. I know it's kind of a dead meme. I think they're fun, and especially for super genre specific stuff, I think it's really fun. And as the title below will tell you, we're making a pack about hardcore today. Without boring you guys too much, because my watch times will plummet and I will cry, I'm going to just really quickly and explain how these starter packs work. So I pick one old album, one second gen album, two new albums, and then one album that is my choice. Usually my choice is a little bit wackier, whereas the rest are a little more cut and dry, just pure hardcore. Just to keep it fucking simple for the people in the audience who are going to scream about, oh, the genre's not right. Shut the fuck up, who cares? As a disclaimer too, hardcore comes from the genre hardcore punk, which is formed in the late 80s and early 90s. It was a attempt to try to keep punk all super gritty and lo-fi and just from the heart, whereas pop punk was starting to kind of rise up and bubble up and become a genre. There was a complete push against that. Now, this is where hardcore comes from, but it's pretty different nowadays. So I'm not going to be putting any hardcore punk bands in this just because I think it'd be kind of disingenuous because they are different, even though it kind of stems from that. I will recommend some hardcore punk bands right before my fifth pick. So sit the fuck down and watch my video, please. Wait to find out some cool stuff. You know, I can talk cool. I can make a joke. So let's just drop into the fucking starter pack, zip up the hazmat suit, don't go outside. Still don't go outside. I mean, I know America is all like, oh, fuck the quarantine, it's fine, virus will go away. It will not. So don't go outside, but zip up the hazmat suit. You want to be safe. You never know who might be lurking in your vents. You know, just banging around in there. Think it's a rat? It's not. It's Jimmy about to drop in and infect you with the virus. So, you know, just be chill. So this album is called Humanity is the Devil by Integrity. So this is early gritty hardcore. Now what I mean by that is this is, a lot of old heads will say this is like the purest form of hardcore, or as Code Orange would say, this is motherfucking hardcore! The guitar tone is dirty, the production is more lo-fi in comparison to what we have these days. It has teeth, like a fucking angry Rottweiler. It has teeth. This album is definitely something to get immersed in. It's something to really put in your headphones and just kind of shut out the world to, because it's a really interesting album just to listen to the sound. It really, and the sound of the album, the lyrics of the album, if you can understand them, which I know some people can't, but whatever. It's just a really great album just to sit down and just fucking bang out. It's not a long album, and just to give your brain food with it. Give the brain food. It's just an amazing listen. It's really cool to see the roots of this album and where it stems from, because this album, even though it's hardcore, still has a little punk twinge to it. And it's cool to see these early proto albums still be very listened to and important today, because that's not always the case in most genres. I mean, look at rap. Like, yeah, we still have 90s rap that's like really influential, but who the fuck still listens to 70s like boombox hip hop? Like, not many. I mean, people still do obviously appreciate it, but not many. And so it's really, really cool to see these proto albums still mean so much to a genre. I mean, hardcore is a newer genre, but it's cool. I think it's cool. And you can just really feel the fucking visceral anger pouring out of this album. Just, God, they're mad boys. They're a couple of mad boys out there. And you know what? That's totally cool. We support our boys and we love our boys. So I think it's cool, and I think it's really cool to see a different perspective of the world if you're not generally a pessimistic kind of person. And it's just, I don't know, I like this kind of stuff. I think it's really sick. The lyrics are all really interesting, they're all really pessimistic, and it's a different perspective from what a lot of normal people would consider to be how they view the world. So I don't know, I think it's cool. Honestly, I think every hardcore fan should hear this album. And if you're looking to get into hardcore, this is I think this is a good step. It's influenced literally everything that's come from it. So if you want to try to appreciate the genre for what it is now, I think you should listen to it. Just fucking listen to it. It's like a 30-minute album. Just fucking pump it out on the way to work. Who cares? Maybe it'll give you the courage to quit or whatever. Now this album is called Jane Doe by Converge. I think everyone needs to hear this album too. This is another one of these breaking moments albums. This is one of these albums that completely shakes the genre at its core. It's just one of the most influential early 2000 albums ever. It came out in 2001. It's got a good mix of screaming and singing, and it's got this insane vitriol mix of emotions. It's got some really sad songs. It's got some really amazingly angry songs. It's got everything. It basically created a whole new subcategory, which is kind of now what's known as hardcore, which is metallic hardcore. It's basically what's like kind of hardcore but with a metal twist. But that's now what's kind of known as just normal hardcore. So just so everybody knows, this also birthed a newer genre. This album entirely birthed a new genre. It has a couple names. Some people call it chaoscore, and some people call it scrams. Some people call it like noise metallic hardcore or noise infused metallic hardcore. Some people call it grinding hardcore. Whatever you want to call it, it's this kind of chaotic, super fast paced, super like dissonancy chord heavy. It's chaotic, and it's extremely overwhelming if you're not into that kind of music. Now I am, and I am kind of a fucking sim for this music. It's basically a wall of noise at its best. You know, at worst it's a fucking completely out of time, disgusting mess of garbage. But I mean, it's got some really high highs and it's got some really low lows. But the production on this album still holds up, and it's 20 years later. It's not like lo-fi. It's almost 20 years later, and the production on this album still holds up extremely well. It doesn't sound too lo-fi. It doesn't sound gross. It has the right amount of production. It has the teeth there. It has the like prettiness for the songs that are like more smooth and slow and somber. It's just a really, really intensely well-made album. There's just so much amazing musicianship and songwriting skill in this album. Every song flows into each other with a with a very nice buttery smooth flow. Not only that, but it can switch between songs that have intense fast-paced screaming and dissonance chords and time signature changes to songs that are really slow and melodic and somber. And it really shows off how well these people can curate an album. This album is just an experience start to finish. If you have not checked out this album, I implore you to check it out, because it'll help you better understand the shift from the 90s to the 2000s in hardcore. The next one is The Things We Carry by Have Heart. Now, this is an album from 2006. This is right on the cusp of 3rd gen and 1st and 2nd gen. I mean, this is definitely the most 3rd gen sounding album in 2nd gen if you want to get really technical with it. But I don't care. It's really important to a lot of people. It shows the not softer side of hardcore, but the more emotional side of hardcore, I guess. Like, I mean, all hardcore is really emotional. I mean, that's the whole point of it most of the time. But this album shows it in a different light almost. This album, I say, is kind of a good mix of hardcore. It's basically like early proto-hardcore, but in a newer life. It has points where it sounds like hardcore punk, and it has points where it sounds like new age hardcore that you hear nowadays. It's just a beautiful mix of the two before the newer age hardcore happened. It's got like a cleaner production than what you would hear in like earlier hardcore, but it's still like extremely teethy. It's still extremely gritty, and it still packs a goddamn punch. Personally, I think almost every hardcore musician has heard this album. I think it's inspired a lot of people. I know for sure it inspired me when I was getting into music. This album is just this whole album feels like they're just pouring their goddamn heart out at you, which you don't normally hear in this genre. You know what I mean? It's just such a passionately well-written album, and not only that, but it was definitely a trendsetter for this kind of music. So I think it's definitely worth a listen. Next album is called I Am King by Code Orange. This album came out in 2014. If you like modern hardcore, you have probably heard these guys. I wouldn't be surprised. They headline This Is Hardcore goddamn near every year. They're super active in the community, and they were definitely a trendsetter in sense of what hardcore sounds like now. Just dissonance chords, just fucking sheer anger and frustration in the vocals, crunchy, heavy fucking guitar riffs, breakdowns galore. It's basically everything you want in a modern hardcore album put into this. Right now, them and Knocked Loose are definitely the poster children of hardcore right now. Personally though, I think Code Orange is more influential, therefore has a more important album. Whereas I think Knocked Loose is was more of the consumer's first choice. This is definitely more of the musician's first choice, considering that I think it came out earlier, and also I think it inspired a lot more people. The little bit I did earlier with Integrity with this clip. Yeah, that's Code Orange yelling that. So if you have any kind of doubts of them being hardcore, they're definitely do it for the love of the fucking game. Now that's not to say that all of their albums are exactly immediately hardcore. Their newest album is definitely more of a mixed genre bag. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I think it's interesting. I think it's new, which I will always support. Therefore, I don't hate it necessarily. So but for years and years and years, Code Orange has been pushing hardcore and trying to get the hardcore as big as possible, and just bringing so many new eyes to the genre that I think they definitely deserve to be on this list. The album is sharp. The album is just a giant fucking bastard sword coming down on a shield wall, just crunching shields and caving in helmets. This album is just monumentous. This is the definition of angry at the world, and I think Code Orange really just did it extremely well. You can just hear it fucking oozing from the audio files, and that's why I recommend this album super tough. So before we get to the fifth album, I'm going to do some shoutouts. These are bands that are definitely influential in hardcore, but didn't necessarily fit my list, or just really I liked other bands over them. So I'm just going to say a couple of them out now. So we got Knocked Loose, Earth Crisis, Defeater, Vane, See You Space Cowboy, The Chariot, Heavy Heavy Low Low, Wrist Meat Razor, Turnstile, Gallows, Jesus Peace, Judiciary, 156 Silence, Victims, and The End. And now here's some like hardcore punk bands, not many of them, just a couple of them, just to give you an idea of the genre if you do want to go back that far. Minor Threat, Gorillaz, Negative Approach, The Meatmen, DRI, even though they're kind of crossover, who cares, Cro-Mags, and Agnostic Front. We're going to be looking at Entry Dispersal by Sleep Sculptor, which came out in 2019. Now, this is fucking daddy's choice, as Ludwig would say. Oh, I can't even say that with a fucking cringe. This is probably my favorite album that came out last year. Definitely one of my favorite albums in the genre. Now, this isn't necessarily just hardcore. I would say this is more hardcore with a tinge of deathcore and with a tinge of noise influence and with a tinge of math metal. This is a lot of metal genres mixed into one, and I just think the writing is impeccable. The flow of the album is impeccable. It's got this high energy that it just keeps on giving. The vocals are insane, and just the instrumentals are fucking otherworldly. Like, I can't even begin to tell everyone how good this fucking album is. I would say that it's very, very close to Chaos Core. Some people might argue that, but oh god, it's so chaotic. Just a fucking punch to the throat, really. That's all it is, through and through. Just a quick punch to the throat, just put you on your ass. Honestly, I would just entirely recommend this album. I would highly recommend it. It's very good. Without further ado, that is the end of our time here today. I hope I can start making videos more frequently. I am going to be ending school here in a couple months, so at that point I think I can start making videos more frequently, hopefully. Who knows though? You know, life's just this one big expansive roll of the dice. It's just RNG galore. You never truly know what you're gonna get. So that being said, have a good rest of your day, guys. Be sure to check out my podcast if you're into D&D kind of stuff. It'll be in the end card. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I hope you discover some new music today. Goodbye.